watershed program. And if anybody wants to know and hear what some of the procedures and management practices we've been doing, Land and Water is actively involved in that. So I would really employ you to talk to Jeremy Williamson and Eric Wolchek, how the phosphorus load and the load into Cedar Lake has gone down. In 1968, we had 28 cows. The average farmer fed 46.2 people. In 2015, our farm milks 300 cows, and the average farmer feeds 164 people. Agriculture and farms have to grow. We have enough food in this world, we need to grow. In Polk County, there are 4,226 jobs related to agriculture. $582 million worth of economic development is done in Polk County through agriculture. $582 million. And this was by the 2014 census. 98.6% of all farms are owned by family or family members. CAFOs are the most highly regulated farm operations available. They have to go through a permitting process. They have to fill out what's called comprehensive nutrient management plans. They are, and I would employ you as members of the public to get the facts about these farms. Get the facts. The process is already in place as to how these farms will be regulated. Agriculture cannot survive the little red barn and 28 cows. It will not be here. Make sure that you find out the facts about CAFOs and the facts about current agriculture and what farmings are doing before we try to employ this group and the county board to do what you think is possible. Thank you.
Thank you. No clapping, please. No clapping, please. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Deb Ryan. I'm the Executive Director for the St. Croix River Association, and I'm here to speak in support of the livestock moratorium that is being proposed today. I think that there's multiple reasons for doing it, but first and foremost, that gives you time to slow down and think. I don't know where you're going to land on changing any ordinances, but just taking the time to take a breath and decide what's good for this county is really something to be applauded, and I really appreciate you considering that. I think that if you take the time, you can formulate what you want to do to protect the quality of life here for everyone in Polk County. You can take time to take a plan to think about public health. You can take time to lay out a plan for a positive vision for the future of agriculture in Polk County. Agriculture and tourism and economic development have a really nice balance here. I moved here over 10 years ago because of that balance. And I really hope that we consider maintaining that balance. Some samples of questions that you might ask as you move forward during that moratorium period is, what authority does the county and the local units of government actually have to do anything above and beyond what happens at the state and federal level? Right now at the state level, 25% of all the should be permitted CAFOs are not in compliance. Until the state gets their ducks in a row, maybe we ought to be thinking how we're going to do what we can do to protect ourselves. I think you should take the time to listen to public concerns. Just stopping, taking a breath again, and listening to what people have to say, dispelling the false rumors, and verifying some of the things that are going around. I think are important. I think the other thing that's different about this isn't the locals coming in and doing an up of the dairy farm. This is industrial egg production coming from foreign corporations. What's that going to do to local land prices on two levels? Will it make your recreational land plummet? Will you even be able to sell it? By me, near Trade Lake, we can't sell land right now. $2 million house is that's being built is being put on hold. Look at air quality, health impacts, look at particulate matter, hydrogen sulfide that's coming up. Look at the plan to put in place. Do you have an adequate plan in place if something should happen to all those hogs? Disposing of 26,000 hogs or more that can't be transported, buried, burned is something that you should be prepared for. Thank you.
Thank you. No clapping, please. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Ken Nickel. Is number 8 that was taken off the agenda, is that the moratorium?
Yes, but you can discuss it. It's
Yeah, we
public
have
comment.
to. Although I have to say, I don't appreciate all these people coming here and then taking me off the agenda. I'm an attorney, not a Wisconsin attorney. I live in Polk County. We own 2 farm properties. Come from a farm family in southwestern Minnesota. My wife comes from a farm family in Iowa. Just about every aunt and uncle I have is a farmer, so I'm very familiar with the process. Also gotten involved in what's happened up in Trade Lake. And to suggest that this is not something critical, well, what happened in Trade Lake is the CAFO quickly submitted an application before the county could put a moratorium in place. So yes, it is a high priority item. And we're not talking about 50 cow farms. We're talking about 1,000 or more animals on a property. So I agree, and I strongly encourage you to put the moratorium in place. The area I grew up, the area my wife grew up, in many ways they've been destroyed by CAFOs. We heard testimony up in Bennett County, at the county meeting up there, that they don't smell, that they don't have any impact on the environment. Sorry, baloney. Been down to both places where I grew up and where my family grew up, where my wife's family grew up. Not true at all. But that really isn't the point. The point is, you need to have a moratorium in place so you can study it. Been to meetings in Trade Lake, been to the meetings in Bennett County. They're kind of ahead of Polk County on this one. But I really strongly, all the moratorium says, put a pause on it until you sort it out. And you really need to sort it out. And as the lady in front of me said, this money is not going, for example, to Bennett County. We've got more information on that now. The people behind it are from Iowa. They're selling the shares to people from everywhere out of state. They're masking everything behind an LLC. But very little of that money is ever going to stay in Bennett County. It's all going to be made and go to people outside the county. So this is not something that's benefiting local farmers. So anyway, I really, really encourage you to put that moratorium in place so you can study it. If you need more information, I've been involved with what's gone up. I'm familiar with the ordinance they're trying to put in place, some of the studies that need to be in place, looked at the law. There are certainly limitations to what a county can do. But again, with working with the attorneys that are involved up there are definitely things you can do. And I really think you need to look at it carefully and look at what other, not only Trade Lake, Bayfield, other places, what they've done. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Please.
My name is Matteo Johnson, and I'm the daughter of Warren and Lynette Johnson. I'm a recent graduate of Osceola High School, and I grew up in Osceola on a family farm. Tonight, I'm here to talk to you about the moratorium that the Polk County Planning Committee has proposed for CAFOs. When people think of what a farm looks like, they imagine a little red barn in silos with a small herd of animals roaming around. This red barn syndrome is harming the farming industry because it is a misjudgment of what farming has become and what it can grow into. The red barn lifestyle is the past and is not a better option for the farmers, their families, or the animals in the present or the future. In 1960, my grandpa started our family farm with 35 milking cows, hogs, chickens, and a little old red barn. Now, nearly 60 years later, we milk nearly 300 cows, raise pigs, and harvest crops because we have transformed our farm from a little old red barn into a high-tech facility with new barns, a parlor, and a new farming methods and technology. Because of this growth, our cows have produced more milk and been healthier than ever before. We are able to monitor how much each cow milks, control their diets, and separate sick cows from the herd to properly care for them. Also, with the new barns and tech, we use less water and electricity than we ever have before. Farm expansion seems scary, but it's actually better for the animals and the environment. The ways of farming in the past are not good for people or their families. Many of these red barn farmers have so much wear and tear in their bodies. When my grandpa finally got around to retirement, he couldn't even stand because he could barely walk and was always in pain. The red barn with 35 cows was able to support my grandparents and their family, and now our farm supports my family. However, this will not always be the case. In the future, if more than one of my siblings wanted to take over the farm, their families would not be supported off of the farm we have now, especially since the economy is changing. We should allow farms to grow to support multiple families, especially since most farms in our county are community-owned farms. Not only is that good for the citizens of our town and county, but it benefits the animals and the children of farmers. In our community, when a new industrial business or housing development grows, we see this as a type of miracle for our community. But if a farm grows, this is on par with committing a crime. George Bernard Shaw, the winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature, once said, "Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." If we can continue to see farming in a negative way, then we are inhibiting this industry from growing. All industries have been given time to grow. Uneducated and biased people want to believe that the best way is to stop farming, but the industry has already grown and become so much better. Why stop the growth and change now? Burnett County proposed and passed the same moratorium. After this, Lana Ruland, the Director of Energy and Environmental and Energy Policy within the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, wrote a letter to the chairman of Burnett County. In her letter, she states, "Large farms are some of the most heavily regulated industries in the United States, with strict environmental requirements and the state and federal laws to protect health, safety, and welfare of Wisconsinites." She continues to state that this moratorium ordinance will be unlawful and unenforceable per Wisconsin state statutes. I hope that our county can realize that this moratorium is unlawful and something that we should not support.
Thank you.
I'm Vicki Growing. I'm a resident of Laketown Township in Polk County. And I'm going to speak for the moratorium. Just the possibility of a huge hog CAFO in the area has already impacted the real estate market. And on behalf of several local realtors, the following impact statements have been compiled as a result of the potential hog farm settling in the Grantsburg area. Houses have not been built, homes have not been shown, and prices have been lowered. Although it's too early to determine the potential decrease in property values, other areas who have been able to calculate the impact of a hog farm entering their area saw a 23% decrease in property value within 1.25 miles of the farm. A statement from Vanessa Ross, a real estate agent from Property Executives Realty. She said, "After telling my buyers to research the future potential hog farm, they no longer wanted to pursue the property on State Road 48 near Grantsburg. Another potential buyer I showed State Road 48 property to loved everything about the property, but the parent who was with them on the showing thought the future of the pig farm would hinder a good investment and discourage their son from pursuing it. The son agreed, but would have made an offer on it otherwise. The list price was higher at that time, and I believe the seller lost money on his sale." Other examples, a person on Spirit Lake who just built a new place said he never would have had he known. Another fellow named Ron Fry, who purchased on Trade Lake, said he lived close to a dairy CAFO in southern Wisconsin and would never have bought here if he had known. There are 3 homes that went up for sale shortly before all this became public, and they had good showings. After all this came out, they can't get anybody to look at their homes. On another note, Trade Lake area has had at least 15 homes go up for sale since all this came about. I am personally more concerned about the possible environmental impacts of a huge hog operation in our area. Groundwater contamination and runoff into our lakes, rivers, and streams is a distinct possibility with the millions of tons of manure that result from so many pigs. In Iowa, pig farms have caused disease, pollution, and contamination. That is the truth. Now they want to move up here to escape those things. We need to protect our natural resources. Damage done may not be immediately obvious, but can result in irreparable damage. I'd like to speak to all the farmers here. You guys have the power to stop this or let it happen. If you don't sell land to the hog operation and you don't contract with them to let them spread their manure on your land, they can't operate. They ultimately have the power, you ultimately have the power to stop all of this. But please think long and hard about it before you do that. Your decision to support it will affect you and your family and everyone around you for many, many years. Please support the moratorium.
Thank you.
My name is Tamra Johnson, and I'm here today as a concerned hog farmer and resident. I'm concerned that the risks associated with CAFOs are too great. I'm worried that the risk factory farms pose to the health of my livestock. And I'm concerned about the manure from these facilities causing pollution in our lakes and streams. The lakes and streams where I'm teaching my children to fish and paddle. My husband and I, our family farm is located on the south end of Centuria, Wisconsin, and Wisconsin 35. I have people pull down our driveway every week to tell us how much they love seeing our animals out on pasture. They love that a young family chose to live and farm here. And you know what this tells me? These people want to see small farms on the landscape. We've worked really hard to start our farm business. We buy our feed from a local feed mill. Half of the meat we raise is sold here in Polk County. We shop with local businesses. We are committed to this place where my family has farmed for 4 generations, this place where my great-grandparents started their dairy in 1932, and where my grandfather started planting his orchard in 1976. Small farms like ours have loyalties to the communities in which we exist. The corporations that run these factory farms, they don't have that same history, and therefore they don't have those same loyalties. As soon as things become too difficult, they can pack up and move a state away. Family farms like mine don't have that option. If someday that feed truck were to come bumping down my driveway, unintentionally carrying with it a disease from its stop at a hog CAFO, I'm not going to be able to pack up and move. I'm committed to living here, raising my children here, farming here, and investing in this community. So when you make a decision on a moratorium on large livestock operations, CAFOs, I ask you to consider my family and my farm, because I am one example of many that will be affected by this decision. I ask you to choose the future you want to see here in Polk County. Choose family farms, small farms, not CAFOs, not factory farms. Choose to protect our lakes and streams, and please vote for a moratorium on CAFOs in Polk County. Thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thank you. No clapping, please.
Hi there. I'd like to encourage all of you in positions of responsibility to pass.
Your name,
I'm Dr. Richard Husett, MD, local physician, and I'm here to encourage you all to pass the CAFO, pass the referendum that would have a moratorium. And I'm doing this ad lib without notes, actually, I am not, as I stand here, against CAFOs. I am, however, in favor of the moratorium strongly, and I believe you must be. In terms of human health, now, I'm a public health physician, and yet most of you may know me as fixing up your heart when you came in for a heart attack, or fixing up your hips, or your broken arms, because I was a practicing physician as well in this Polk County area. In fact, for years, I represented northern Polk County to the public health boards here in this very building. So I've dealt with statute, with ordinance, with rules, with regulation, and with responsibilities to zoning, to DNR, etc. throughout. Yet I encourage you to take the breathing space that a moratorium gives you in order to protect and preserve the health of the community and individuals. What do I mean by that? Okay, it's important that you understand the health impact. Now, the other agencies can deal with groundwater, surface water. That's their responsibility. Human health falls within my bailiwick in the past. Here's my past. I actually ran the state health department for the state of Minnesota. My responsibility was to control all the diarrhea outbreaks, to control all the disease outbreaks, and to protect the communities throughout the state. And we did it through legislative statute. We did it through local ordinance. You need to do that here. So what are the risks? The main risks I'm going to focus on right now are two, and both have to do with spreading E. coli over the environment. For those of you who read the newspaper, you know that right now E. coli is in the news, of course, because 5 of the major lakes in the Twin Cities are closed down because of E. coli infestations. Only some of which are livestock, most of which are kids dumping in the lakes, right? I mean, that's not good. However, your problem is one of superbugs developing because of E. coli in the environment. And that means that your local hospitals may not be able to prevent the superbugs from infecting your hips when you're going for a hip replacement. You may not be able to control Lyme disease using oral agents. You might have to use IVs. And that is very difficult and very expensive for the community. And all of that is related to the use of antibiotics. It's the antibiotics used in feed operations, etc. So again, we need the breathing space to protect human health. It's very important.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
How you doing? I'm Mike Miles. I farm just outside of Luck. I want to speak to the resolution in support of agriculture. Specifically the notion that the Board of Supervisors supports and encourages all types and sizes of agriculture as long as they comply with all the rules, regulations, and guidelines set forth by oversight agencies. As a farmer who is not only concerned with best practices but best policies, I believe this is a knee-jerk reaction that should fall under the category of just because it can be done doesn't mean it should be done. There have been times in U.S. history where policies allowed by the USDA have had massive unintended consequences. One that comes to mind is the Dust Bowl of the 1930s. Policies that led to it were encouraged, legal, and enforceable. Fortunately, Earl Butz's get bigger, get out, fence row to fence row policies are no longer in place, as they were a temporary solution to the wheat crop failure in the Soviet Union. When the Soviets quickly recovered and U.S. grain exports ended, the unintended consequences of those policies led to the farm crisis of the 1980s. Too big to fail doesn't work with banks or farms because they do occasionally fail, and then the consequences are catastrophic. Poor policies that are perfectly legal have created a global crisis that has resulted in an outbreak of African swine fever. By the end of 2019, China is looking at the likelihood that half its 400 million pigs are going to die due to policies that are legal and encouraged. This is going to be catastrophic. A fire at a Tyson beef processing plant last Friday night is threatening to collapse beef markets across the U.S. because Tyson is so big that it processes 6% of all the beef produced in the U.S. Bigger is not always better. One thing that is big and better in Wisconsin is that we are first in the nation in the number of organic beef and dairy farms that we have, and we're number 2 overall in the number of organic farms, behind only California. More farms lead to more local economic activity, which benefits everybody. The topography, geology, and hydrology of Wisconsin is complicated and lends itself to multi-use enterprises that include agriculture, forestry, manufacturing, and recreation. There are places across the U.S. that are so remote that they can be used as national sacrifice zones. Nuclear weapons tests in Nevada come to mind. Yeah, so do the feedlots in Texas, Colorado, and Nebraska. This is not who we are in Wisconsin, nor is it what we want to be. No one in this room is against agriculture in Polk County. It's just silliness to think that a resolution to support agriculture is necessary. Please take the opportunity that the moratorium provides to slow down, gather facts, make policy that makes Wisconsin the ideal place to live, work, recreate, and retire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Falk. My husband and I own and operate Love Tree Farm Sit Cheese. We're located just 1/2 mile north of the Polk County line in Bennett County. Approximately 10 years ago, I chaired the Bennett County Comprehensive Plan and for our county, which is, if you're familiar with the Comprehensive Plan, it's a roadmap that the County is going to take for the next 20 to 30 years. Because of that, I joined the Ultimate Land Use Study Tour with a bunch of other county supervisors in Wisconsin. And we went out to Maryland, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania to study how they were dealing with agricultural preservation under intense pressure for development and other issues. And we saw some really interesting things, and it was really exciting. One of them that was really exciting was a 2,000 cow CAFO. They literally operated on the other side of the fence of a very large residential subdivision. They had a methane digester inside. They were robotically milked. It was freestyle barns. There was no odor, none at all. I don't know what the water supply was like, but all I can tell you is that they existed in harmony with the community, and they supplied enough electricity to offset the entire electric demand of the subdivision. The other thing that we saw was a multi-income level developments where you had very low income subsidized housing in with higher income, and you could not tell. It was gorgeous housing where everybody lived together, and it was more concentrated because they transferred the land development from the ag with the developers, made the deal that they could build more if the land developers paid to preserve ag preservation. They basically purchased the development rights from the farmers, which allowed the farmers to keep going in a very positive economic manner. And these were really exciting things to see. But what they all had in common was they took the time to decide what was good for the community and the farmers, and they spent a lot of time hammering these issues out. Everyone benefited, not just the farmers, not just the developers, but everyone, because it was a give and take amongst everyone, and that's what time does. And that's why I'm asking you to support the moratorium. I'm a farmer, and we milk less than 10 cows. We milk 15 goats and 50 sheep. We make cheese, we sell it at the Twin Cities and locally, and we're making a living, and all of our money goes back into the community. We buy from the local co-ops, and Dave and I, we don't have a rich living, but we have a good living. So I really grind my teeth when I hear the Little Red Barn Farm doesn't exist anymore, because it does, and it's the majority of our farms. So please support those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having those. I represent many, many people, but I'm standing here and I'm not in bed anymore, but I have spent years in bed by believing things that panned out not to be true, like how mercury can poison us, and it did me for decades, how I got Lyme disease because my immune system was shut down. I have to be very careful with where I breathe. I instantly get a headache being around most women's perfume, stores that sell tires, all of that stuff. My quality of life is greatly reduced, but because of what I choose to eat, where I choose to live, and all of this that is so important for all of us to be aware of, because we don't live in a safe world anymore. There's so much to make us sick and to make our loved ones sick. I'm just asking, please, please, this is not a preference. This is a conviction, probably for everyone that came here today. Our lives, our health, our quality of lives depend on decisions like this, and I would just ask that you guys really look into everything that you can look into for all of us, that improving the quality of life for all who live, work, and play in Polk County. That's what I know your heart is to do, and that's what I, as one person, am asking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julia Nickel. I've lived in Polk County my entire life. My father, Ken Nickel, here is with me. We have 2 farm properties. We grow organic hay. And I am urging you, on the most important level, to pass the moratorium you are looking at, to protect our public health, our environmental safety, to protect the tourism in Wisconsin and Polk County, and to encourage agricultural sustainability. People come here to vacation. They come here to get away from urban life. from the day-to-day. They will not want to do that if you bring CAFOs here, if the farmers allow CAFOs to come here. CAFOs destroy the air, they destroy the water, and they destroy the beauty of this land. We do not want to look like Iowa. My mother lived and grew up in Iowa, and it was a beautiful place when she was a little girl. Now it is not a beautiful place. You drive down there, especially where we used to live, and the smell is overwhelming. The landscape is destroyed, and the water quality is awful. And there is precedent to protect the land. Look at what Bayfield and Ashland County have done. Bennett County has passed a moratorium. There is precedent to protect the groundwater. And in southern Wisconsin, look at what the CAFOs are already doing down there in the groundwater. It is not a pretty picture. We want to be sure to protect what we already have. It is much easier to prevent an environmental disaster than to clean one up. And I have to agree with Ms. Johnson came up with her farm in Centuria. You have to encourage local farmers. They're the ones who are Polk County residents. Do not the foreign corporations coming over from Iowa and making the money go around. It's not going to come back to Polk County. It's going to other places. So as an economic boon, it's not going to help you. And my last point is, look at the regulations that we have for boats to prevent algae from being spread from lake to lake. That will seem utterly insignificant in comparison to the runoff, the manure runoff, that will all the antibiotic-resistant bacteria and all the pesticides and all the other hormone that they give.
I've heard a lot of comments here today about not supporting the local community. That is just entirely misguided, I believe. They're going to buy commodities from local farms. They're not going to import this stuff. You talk about sustainability. Farming is animal agriculture is the epitome of sustainability. There's a lot of crop ground here in this county that uses nitrogen imported from Kuwait. How green is that model of bringing all this stuff across the ocean? Yeah, it's manufactured in another country. We don't have to worry about it, but we do spread it here. Our dairy actually manufactures it right there. Our cows produce this. We spread it on a field in a very safe way. We are the most highly regulated industry here in Wisconsin. And being a CAFO, I am inviting this committee and the entire county board to come down to my operation here this fall and see what it's like when it's what it actually looks like. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you. So we have time for one more.
Hello, my name is Bennett Nickel. I'm Kent Nickel's son, Lynn's brother. I won't repeat all the background information about how I came to live here because they've already ultimately said much of that. I've heard a lot of the speakers here mention who are in favor of CAFOs mention this generally dairy CAFOs in nature. Well, I should have already said that I'm urging you to pass the moratorium. And the reason for that is that there is a massive substantive difference even between dairy CAFOs and hog CAFOs, just in the sheer number of animals. Because in dairy CAFOs you may have a few hundred cows, maybe 1,000 I don't know what the biggest one would be, but that would be the biggest I'd imagine. Hog CAFOs you have thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of animals. There's just a huge qualitative difference. One of the gentlemen who came up before me mentioned the African swine flu currently that's ravaging China. And I no doubt that's probably one of the prime motivations of the Iowa corporations who want to open up the CAFOs here is to try to take advantage of the Chinese predicament. It's a bubble waiting to happen. eventually that's going to be resolved, and and we're going to have our environment ruined for little long-term benefit, economic benefit. It's not really going to be worth the effort. And as others have said, well, this is maybe we should do this for progress. This is for progress' sake. You can't stop progress. Well, no, I'm sorry. It's people are not going to come out from the Twin Cities. They're not going to come from other parts of the country to farm, to fish, to hunt, to do all the things that we enjoy in this part of the country if it's gets bought up by a small group of large CAFOs after a while, for all the environmental reasons already mentioned. And last but not least, do we really want to replicate the strategy that the Chinese have followed, which led to the massive outbreaks of disease that they've had? It only just takes a little bit of some sort of contamination to spread in an environment like that, and then we're all affected, and then we're all suffering. So please consider that in your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll have to end. No, we're out of time. We got a public hearing coming. Mr. Johanson. Yes. Would you like to come up and do your...
I'd love to.
Are we at number 5?
Yes.
I have, it says I've got two moratoriums here. One is passed by the town of Lake Town. I'm going to pass those copies out to the committee for their perusal. The other one is the Bennett County moratorium, which was passed recently. And so that everybody can use those for reference on the committee. And I'd like to thank the committee for letting me speak today and introduce this resolution 3319 on the request of people from my district, mainly in District 3. You can see up there, pretty close to Bennett County and Lake Town. So anyway, if you have your resolution in front of you, I'd like to take a look at a few whereas and resolve clauses. You want to have it?
I might have.
Wow.
I've got so many.
Anyway, the resolution is entitled Creating Polk County Ordinance Regarding Temporary Moratorium on Livestock Facilities. The whereas clauses, lines 5 through 42, speak to basically what's been articulated here by the proponents in the public comment sections for this resolution. On line 36, there's a need for adequate time to determine whether action should be taken to amend existing Polk County ordinances or adopt new ordinances or to take other action given. So basically that's one of the reasons why I think we should look at this, is to see how it fits in with our present comprehensive zoning laws. Then we go to the resolve clause, or as Malia has it in this form, now therefore it be ordained as follows. Line 85, it's got the purpose. The purpose of this ordinance and moratorium is as follows: to allow Polk County adequate time to study, review, consider, and analyze the potential impacts of livestock facilities in Polk County. That echoes pretty much what's been said here by those in favor of a moratorium in the public comment section. In line 89, number 2, to allow Polk County adequate time to research, analyze, and synthesize scientific literature. And as somebody said, let's get the facts. What are the facts? So we need to find out. This will give us time to do that. And line 94, to allow Polk County adequate time to determine whether a regulatory structure of livestock facilities is required in Polk County, which may include a number of things, as you can see there. And down in line 130, duration of the moratorium. The moratorium shall be in effect for a period of 6 months from the date of the ordinance that it's adopted by the Polk County Board of Supervisors if so adopted. And then on line 154, actions during the moratorium. And this is what is laid out here in the resolution. The Polk County Land and Water Resources Department, Land Information Department, and Health Department is hereby directed to and granted authority to coordinate, organize, or take other steps to research, analyze, synthesize scientific literature and data regarding the impact of livestock facilities on groundwater, surface water, air quality, and other environmental impacts that may impact the health, welfare, and safety of Polk County, its residents and visitors. Pretty much summarize what we heard here today in the public comment section. Okay? So it reflects what the people are asking us to do. 163, line 63. The Polk County Administrator, the County Board Chair, and the Chairman of the Environmental Services Committee or designee shall work with the staff from the departments listed above and shall coordinate additional participants if deemed necessary. So Bennett County authorized $20,000 to study this. I and those who put this together thought maybe we could do this in-house or without allocating any money. We'll see how that works. Then the Polk County Administrator shall report the findings and recommendations of appropriate regulatory approaches 30 days prior to the end of the moratorium, or as soon as the Polk County Administrator has developed recommendations. So this is a 6-month moratorium, excuse me, with a 6-month possible additional 6 months to it. Any questions? Supervisor Olson.
So, 13 months ago, me and you were on the opposite side of the egg line quarter, of the line quarter situation. We were.
I didn't know that. Okay, we'll go with that.
And the two of us in this committee were able to work a deal where the county went out and studied it. In fact, it's coming to the county board in next week now. And so I'm going to make that offer to you today like you made to me 13 months ago. I think we should study it. But why don't we study it in-house at no cost and at Environmental Services? We have been given the opportunity today as not just a committee, but as the entire county board to go visit the Solom Farm. We as a committee, I don't think Tracy and Doug were not on the committee at that time, but we went out to the Solom Farm for manure management tour. We went to 5 or 6 spots. The Towns Association, according to their card that came to me and you as town board members, has, I believe, the Department of Agriculture and the DNR lined up to come to our towns meeting in August here now. So why not, as a county, invite them to come in to a county board meeting, and if we have to hold a special committee of the whole because it can't be at 6 o'clock at night or whatever. I am not really against anything in here, and for those who don't understand, I am the little red farmer. I mean, me and my son do milk 35 cows, so I get it, and I am not a lover of CAFOs, but I look at the bigger picture.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to interrupt. However, Mr. Supervisor Olson removed by operation of his request at the beginning this topic from the agenda. And we're only here for Chairman Johanson's introduction of the legislation. So I believe his comments violate the open meetings law potentially because the agenda was not confirmed with this topic.
Okay, I just asked for questions, so that was my question.
He asked for a question, so he cannot answer any questions? He can only put this forward and we can't ask him any questions?
Right now, the topic is no longer on the agenda.
That's right, it's been presented.
Okay.
It's been presented. All right.
Okay, yeah, no,
Then it goes on from
I apologize.
So that would end my presentation.
Yep, no, we can't ask questions.
Thank you.
All right. Sorry.
Thanks.
Let's take a short break so we can get ready for our tour through the house.
Move to recess.
Move to recess. Is there a second? Second by File. Favor, yes.